Dr. Alexandra Werth. I'm an assistant professor of biomedical engineering at Cornell University, and I study engineering education research. And I just began this position this last fall, so fairly recently. So I have I received a traditional engineering PhD in electrical engineering, where I worked on developing a non-invasive glucose sensor using mid-infrared laser spectroscopy. So I'm particularly interested in imaging and instrumentation, as well as entrepreneurship and engineering design. So I'm currently teaching an experiential learning seminar, which I can talk a bit about more, as well as the senior design capstone and mentoring teams engaging in biomedical engineering design projects. It's sort of a unique course. It's just 1 credit, so we meet once a week for an hour. And it's really an opportunity for students to pause and reflect on their learning experiences that are going on outside of the classroom. So things like internships and research experiences, or even TAing or volunteering, and how those connect with their formal learning experiences in the classroom. So it's an opportunity to really engage in that, in those reflective skills, and also explore various career paths and learn from each other and what everyone is doing. I'm working currently on transforming the course. I just applied for an internal grant to help support that. But it is currently given for sophomores in their second year spring through, it's a 1-year course. So second year spring through third year fall. At the end of the course, in its current state, students develop this e-portfolio, which is sort of an online resume that definitely could be used or sent in order to apply for internships. But I think that the most important thing is students getting a sense and talking to others and getting advice and mentorship on what are the possible career paths as a biomedical engineer. That's something that is difficult to know about, especially with all of these different concentrations within biomedical engineering and pathways that one could go into. Plus, it's a fairly new discipline of engineering, so there's just less established career mentorship around what to do with an undergraduate biomedical engineering degree. So I think that more than anything is what's there to help support the students in their future endeavors. Yeah, I mean, I talked to you a bit about the experiential learning seminar, and that's really an open space for conversation. And so I think that that's an easy place to connect deeply with students. During this class, I try to share my personal experiences and personal stories, but when they're relevant, of course. But I also predominantly just provide a space for students to share their own stories and actively listen and engage with their stories, which I think is an easy thing for instructors to often overlook in the classroom. And I think all of this needs to be, it does vary depending on year or your level of previous connection with the students. As a new faculty, I don't really know any of the students, so I don't think it looks that much different from the sophomores in the experiential learning course to the seniors in senior design. But if I was in a senior design course with students who I've known throughout their entire careers, now the types of stories that I would share with them are perhaps a lot different, or maybe at the end of the semester. And likewise, the amount of scaffolding, if you provide if you ask students to share their stories, that can be an intimidating thing for students to do in front of a class or with other people that they don't know, including myself, but also their peers. So providing specific prompts and helping them with that process. And you might be able to remove some of that scaffolding as they get to know each other later in their careers. there's a lot going on there in this question, and I think it varies depending on your context. I'm going to use design, whether it's a first year design course or a design course in the middle of students' undergraduate experiences or a senior design course. This is a place where you're going to have potentially lots of students with all different interests coming together and wanting to do different things and having all different expectations and projects that need to be personalized and coming in with lots of different backgrounds. And I think that this is especially the case in biomedical engineering, as you were mentioning. So some of in terms of teamwork, one of I think that having that interdisciplinary team is essential. But if you're not at the senior design level where you're like, I want to learn this very specific tool that will help me in this job that I've already been accepted to, having students go out of their comfort zone and explore new things is important. But you also want to give them agency over their teamwork experience and these design projects and allow them choice to do something that they find motivating and that they would like to learn and that they're good at. So one idea is to have students write their teamwork preferences, like their role preferences for a team and what they want to explore. Form teams where everyone has an interdisciplinary aspect that they want to contribute. But then at some point in the semester, tell them that they have to mix it up and do one of the tasks that they wrote really down on their list that they said that they didn't want to do. This also normalizes it for everyone, that everyone gets to do something that they really want to do, and everyone has to do something that is really challenging for them and that they struggle with. And you all know that you're going to struggle with this task. And you can support each other, and it's not like, why is this person struggling on my team when everyone else is doing really well? Yeah, I also think that setting clear expectations is really about developing. I mean, for these things to be successful, it's really about students developing their own path and being self-regulated and being driven by intrinsic motivation and values, especially in a design setting. And so one of the key components, I think, is matching your grading metrics to those things that you want to see and value, right? If you value students struggling, then put a grade associated with resiliency, right? If you value students being able to set their own personal goals, that is not something that shouldn't be valued. That should get a grade value in that process itself. So I think matching those grades with the things that you value and really identifying that clearly and thinking about creative ways to sort of align those things. Well, as an engineering education researcher, I am involved in a lot of different educational activities. One of the current projects that I am working on is thinking about teamwork in engineering and even more specifically in biomedical engineering. When I ask instructors about whether they include teamwork in their classes or in their design courses, they often say that and even probe them more to say, what are your learning objectives surrounding teamwork? It's like, oh, well, engaging students in teamwork is my learning objective, or they might cite the ABET criteria. But teamwork is really a complex subject, umbrella term that incorporates a lot of different things, and there are many specific learning objectives underneath that umbrella that one could prioritize or value when putting team-based activities into their classes. So this current project is developing a survey and interviews of engineering faculty across the country to start to understand what are these learning objectives surrounding teamwork that they have, what types of classes, at what levels do those show up in. So for example, Do you want students to learn as much as possible from each other? Is that your priority? Or do you want them to develop conflict resolution skills? They're both under the teamwork umbrella, but depending on your priorities, I would give very different pedagogical recommendations for how to support those two different priorities. Um, in addition to that, I'm also working on developing various assessment tools. So these aren't exams, but research-based assessment instruments that can help instructors start to evaluate what's going on in their classes, and by using these tools across many years, track changes that they make in terms of modifications to their courses and see whether those have helped in achieving various outcomes that they want for their students. And I'm particularly interested in developing really novel tools that leverage generative AI in that process. And one of my last thrusts of research is in engaging in large enrollment course-based undergraduate research experiences. So this is something that I worked on as a postdoc in physics education, and we developed the first large enrollment introductory physics cure or course-based undergraduate research experience, and thinking about how we can bring that into engineering and specifically biomedical engineering. So that's an area that I'm really looking for partnerships on exploring that idea more. It's really difficult and time consuming to develop these tools. And so it's important to, one, know what the biomedical engineering education community wants to measure, and then be able to support those efforts so that it's not only tracking changes in your own classrooms, but you could also have this larger data set that you can compare your class situation to other classes nationally that are doing similar things. So I think that there's a lot of utility in that, but identifying what things we want to measure and what are the most important to us is also critical, and I'm looking for collaborations in that sense. Yeah, so I'm moving into this world of biomedical engineering education research from physics education research, and I'm also new faculty. So I'm actively looking for biomedical engineering educators who want to collaborate with me, who want to talk about the challenges that they're facing and work together on finding possible solutions or ways that my work can help support them. Or even just volunteer to be a beta tester for a new assessment tool if, when it comes out. And again, I'm particularly interested in exploring areas where biomedical engineering is unique from other engineering disciplines and how we can support students developing those critical biomedical engineering specific mindset and skills. I'm also actively looking for graduate students. So if you know any biomedical undergraduate students who are looking to pivot into education research in graduate school, I would absolutely love to talk to them.
Okay, I'm so sorry.